Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows come the best indie podcasts.
Witchcraft, the occult, extremist beliefs, murder. Tune in to Rogue Darkness each Friday and join host Raven as I uncover horrific crimes committed under the misconceptions and misunderstandings of witchcraft and other belief systems. I'll cover a wide range of crimes involving ritualistic killings and extremist beliefs to cult persuasion and supposed possession. Anything and everything that borders the line of horrifying. There's always 3 sides to a story. Side A, Side B, and then the truth. Let's uncover the truth together and explore the darkness of mankind, one crime at a time. Available wherever you get your podcast fix, simply by searching Rogue Darkness.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his way.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Roar! Mountain Murders is roaring into March like a lion.
Oh, God, I'm scared.
Are you?
Yeah.
Meow.
No, the March winds are already here, right?
Yeah, you said it was really warm outside.
It's pretty nice.
But I noticed I was doing homework at our, I don't know, what would you call that? Our little dining table.
Our multi-purpose table.
Our little multi-purpose table. I guess it's a dining table. I had the window open.
Right.
Because it's nice out. But I was getting quite a breeze. A little chilly. I had to go put on a sweatshirt because I was getting a little breeze through the window. And I thought, it's here.
Yeah, it's right.
The winds.
It's right there in the middle where, if you try to wear a hoodie or pullover, it's too warm. But if you have a, shirt on, at times it might feel chilly outside. But it makes me want to get a kite.
Yes, I know, right? I mentioned that to you the other day. Like, we should get a kite. They're really fun.
I think we should do that. We should go have a kite day, even if it's just the little cheap little ones, and see how high we can get that kite.
When my son was younger, I mean, gosh, this was like probably 10 years ago, he had this amazing kite that my aunt had purchased for him somewhere like on the internet, I guess. And it looked like a dragon. But it was big.
Those are
nice.
Nice.
Very wide, probably 6-foot wingspan type of thing. And we took it to the beach and had this really windy day and got it up there. And it was so cool.
This you could get it way up there today with this type of wind, but the beach is a good place because you're almost guaranteed a breeze.
Yeah, but it was really fun. And I haven't, besides with my child, I haven't flown a kite since I was a kid, but I always looked forward to that. We had like a kind of a big field above my grandparents' house that was empty. Now it's a public park, but I would go up in that field. The little old man that lived at the end of the road, he didn't care. And I'd go up in his field with a kite as a kid, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Now, have you ever tried to fly a kite when there's no wind?
Yeah, that stinks.
You'll run yourself silly trying to get that damn thing up in there.
Such disappointment, because you're trying so hard. And it just doesn't quite catch.
Yeah,
you
it keeps
keep kind
nose
of
diving
running
into the
and
ground.
trying to get it, and that it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah. Oh well, Dylan, how you been?
I'm doing great.
That's good.
Yeah.
You had a couple of days off from work. We had a little staycation.
Yeah, a little 4-day weekend. Get a little extra rest. I'm rededicating myself to my own health, and physical health mostly, mental health a little bit, and things are good.
Great. One of the things, and gosh, I hate to be negative, but
she's gonna be.
I want to tell them about our terrible experience Friday night.
Oh no.
Okay. Dylan, we were going to have a little staycation. He took a few days off. We're like, okay, we're going to explore. You know, I mean, we've only lived in this area like less than a year where we're staying. And we want to kind of get out and experience, you know, some of the restaurants, some of the spaces around town.
Well, it's been the winter mostly since we've been here.
Yeah.
So now it's nice again.
So it's nice again. But for the longest time, you wanted to try a wild game restaurant. We even had plans like a couple years ago to, you know, go to this wild game restaurant with some friends. And I can't remember, whatever reason, it didn't work out. We didn't go. We ended up doing something else. But I thought, you're having a staycation. You've been working so hard. I wanted to do something really nice for you. So I made a reservation to surprise you at the wild game restaurant that's in our vicinity, right? It was really expensive. And it was the worst meal I've ever had in my life. Like, I didn't even get wild game. Like, we had a charcuterie board that had wild boar, some kangaroo.
That's a little bit of kangaroo chopped up and some
Like
wild boar sausages.
Yeah.
And some aged cheddars and some
salmon,
little jams.
yeah.
And now the charcuterie board was pretty good.
It was good.
It was
Okay?
pretty good.
I will say the charcuterie board, it was good. However, I didn't even order wild game. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't that appealing to me. I ordered a prime rib because I haven't had prime rib in a really long time. I was excited, like, oh, wow, you know, I bet this place really does this prime rib justice. I don't know how a prime rib, and now I understand it's going to have marbling. You get the fat marbling. But this was a slab of fat, and it was dry. It was dried out. How do you serve someone a dried out slab of fat? No seasoning. The vegetables were undercooked, and our baked potatoes were so cold that, like, the loaded baked potato, the cheese wasn't even melted on it. It was cold.
I was taken aback by how, and for one, look, we'll move on in a second. I know we're carrying on, but this was kind of a big deal.
You know, our listeners, they're invested in our lives.
But they have these experiences too.
And they've probably had this. I mean, I was so upset with this experience. I've never been to a restaurant where, like, it was so bad, it, like, made me angry. And I felt angry when I left.
Right. I mean,
like, I just got ripped off.
What was pricey? We're trying to have a nice meal. This offers kind of a whole experience with the decor.
I took off my sweatpants for this.
She put clothes on, y'all.
Yeah.
And we were kind of, snazzed up and feeling good. And but then I knew we were in trouble because they quickly brought out the appetizer.
Yeah.
Of course, the charcuterie board's basically pre-prepared, right? You just throw it on the board. It came out quickly. Okay, cool. We're munching. The sweet tea was pretty good.
Having some little conversation.
Yeah, look, people watching, judging people as we do. Trying to fill out their backstories, trying to figure out who's getting divorced, who's on first dates.
Yeah, we
like
really
that.
just like to create little backstories for people around us.
But then I start noticing, and I'm not that person. I never ever complain.
Yeah, I never complain either,
even when I should.
And I will eat like anything.
Right. I can have.
I don't send it back.
One thing on my plate be great, and then the other things not be that good, and I'm like, well, okay, it happens. I get it. It's food service. Things are busy. I understand things happen. I get it. But I start noticing that people who were sat
like 20 minutes after us.
30 minutes after us are getting their entrees, and I'm like, okay, and like multiple other waiters and waitresses, not ours, stopped and was like, are you guys okay? Are you waiting? And kept asking if we were waiting on our check because we kind of had that look like we don't know what to do. And we're like, no, we're waiting on our food. And they never like elaborated. And finally, I was at the point where I was just like, look, I'm about to flag somebody down.
Yeah, you were.
Pay for the
like
charcuterie, pay for the appetizer, and let's just be out. And I don't know what happened. Let's just go on with our lives. And here she comes with our food.
Finally.
And I've never in my life seen a piece of prime rib look like, I assume it was an end cap. I really think it was the piece that you would cut at some point in the prime rib and kind of throw away.
Yeah.
It was not a prime cut.
No.
It was nothing.
Terrible. It was inedible, basically.
I've never seen a prime rib slab.
There was like hardly any meat on it.
Yeah. And then the vegetables, they were literally a bird's eye bag in the freezer or bag in the microwave, steamer vegetables, not even steamed long enough.
No.
And then a cold potato with a non-melty cheese or butter. And I had some wild meats. I like kangaroo, antelope, which were interesting, kind of, but they were all rather hard cooked, honestly, I think. And
nothing was seasoned.
Nothing was
like, how do
seasoned.
you run a quote steakhouse?
This is chef's choice. Everything was chef's choice.
The steakhouse, but you don't season the meat.
Oh my gosh.
I just don't understand.
I don't understand either.
So in rant, but I'm sure some of y'all have had a meal that was super disappointing.
Yeah, so it's like
and then you're stuck paying like,
it's a $160 meal with no alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just got to point that out because that oftentimes drives the cost up.
Yeah, and I mean, we rarely do it up like that. So, I mean, we love food and we're foodies and we go out and eat a lot and try new things, try different restaurants. But, on average, I'm not spending $160. Like,
no, not for that little bit of
no.
food. You know what I'm
saying?
saying?
There have been times we've spent like $100 and we've had like
a couple of drinks
or
beers,
a couple small plates and the entrees or whatever. But, I think 160 is quite a bit.
That's quite a bit for 2 entrees.
Well, and at that level of
and
money, I'm like I have a certain expectation. And this was not it.
You left there hungry. You poor thing. You ate way less than me because
my food was so bad.
It was so you didn't need to eat. You were disgusted.
And I came home and I was like so sad. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll just have a bowl of cottage cheese.
She's in here eating snacks out of the kitchen after we just
had like literally nice just eating a bowl of cottage cheese, like crying and sad because I mean, who wants to come home and eat a bowl of cottage cheese?
And so if anyone out there, why not? Let's just throw it out there. If you have had a horrible dining experience.
Yeah. We could do a listener episode of just like bad dining experiences.
Bad date night dining.
Tell us about your worst meal.
Yes, hit us up at Mountain Murders Podcast.
Maybe you went to someone's house and their mama made like the worst food ever, like a big old rubbery piece of pork and you had to eat it, not be rude.
Yeah, hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to read those.
Because that's a true, like we talk about horror stories, that's a true horror story. We want to hear your food horror stories. Tell us about your bad restaurant or bad dining experiences. Dylan, it is time for a True Crime Mountain Murders Movie Club.
It is, finally.
We will be discussing Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke. It is a 3-part Hulu docuseries that investigates the disturbing transformation of Ruby Franke, a once celebrated mommy vlogger, into a convicted child abuser. Now, this series provides a pretty comprehensive examination of how her public persona as a devoted mother concealed a reality that was not that. I mean, it was marked by severe abuse, manipulation.
Well, and just disturbing, very disturbing behavior.
Now, I will admit, I didn't know a lot about Ruby Franke. I mean, it was in the news. I guess just peripherally, you kind of hear about the case, but I didn't know a whole lot about her. So I learned that she gained prominence through her YouTube channel called 8 Passengers, which she launched in 2015. And this channel co-starred her husband, Kevin, and their 6 children, and kind of offered viewers a glimpse into their daily lives. And they really portrayed this family of like this wholesome Mormon family.
Right. You know the cliche perfect family.
And at its height, 8 Passengers boasted over 2.5 million subscribers. And when you get that kind of like subscribership, you're generating quite a bit of revenue and income.
Yeah, this is a YouTube channel. So at that point, you're getting brand sponsorships.
But behind the camera, Dylan, it was a household in turmoil. So despite the channel's portrayal of this familial bliss, there were tensions and abusive practices taking place. Ruby's eldest children, Sherry and Chad, have recounted experience of severe physical and emotional abuse. And Chad disclosed instances where Ruby would resort to corporal punishment, including whipping with a belt. And a lot of these actions were concealed from their online audience. And then Sherry, Chad's sister, also corroborated these accounts and even recalled moments when she had to help her brother clean blood off the walls after violent episodes.
Damn.
Which is nuts.
No, that's way, there's no there's no scenario where there should be blood involved in the punishment of your children. I mean, that's insane.
Now, Dylan, who is Jody Hildebrandt?
Jody Hildebrandt comes into the story a little bit later in the docuseries. Now, but I must say, you know, at first, and I knew that there was like family vloggers, mommy vloggers and things, but I kind of didn't realize the popularity of them, which it kind of makes sense because relatable. You know, they're talking about something a lot of people deal with, children.
Well, you're getting like an unfiltered glimpse into these people's lives, and sometimes it's really relatable because it's like an unpolished look at everyday life. You see messy kitchens, you see temper tantrums, you see a lot of like honest struggles.
Right.
So I think it's relatable to people. It makes them feel a little bit less alone in their own personal struggles and challenges.
Right. And a lot of people find inspiration, and you think it's unfiltered, but it's actually very highly curated, which is true with most anything, any genre online, honestly. But you know, there's financial success very quickly went from, I think the dad said their first check was $85, but it was still kind of a rush.
Well, yeah.
Right. Their first video that kind of went viral.
I mean, I remember we made our first like $2 from the podcast, and we were so excited.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you just never think anyone is going to be interested in your content.
Yeah.
Or that you're going to be touching so many listeners or viewers, and that people are going to have a vested interest in what you're doing. Yeah,
it's very validating, and it's kind of a rush, if you will. But that financial success quickly went from that to $2,000 to $8,000 a month, $20,000 a month, as high as sometimes
$100,000.
$100,000 a month.
Yeah.
Now that's insane.
Well, of course, that incentivized Ruby to keep posting. But as the children grew older, filming became kind of a sore spot in the house. The docuseries shows several clips of the children being admonished for not wanting to perform for the camera. And I think it really brings to question the ethics of family vlogging.
Yes.
Which we can kind of get into that more as we talk. But, you know, Kevin says in the docuseries, and that's Ruby's soon-to-be ex-husband, that, quote, "we were completely lost in the fun of it." He said, "We did see changes in the kids accumulating because the kids can be seen in the documentary shying away from the camera or getting stern warnings from Ruby when they don't smile or they miss some prepared line like it's scripted."
Yeah, like the oldest son, he was kind of really popular, and it's probably because, you know, a lot of the people watching were girls his age, and they thought he was cute and things like that. And so they needed more content instead of just the organic, hey, it's, you know, my son being silly or saying something funny. I understand this feeling. I'm not saying
dance, monkey, dance.
I'll dance very well now. I understand that feeling of becoming, or do you just stay natural or do you become a character?
Right.
And it's even a kid can't process that, or the ins and outs of that. And just at first it's fun, it's cool, you know, people might recognize you. You know, he's getting recognized as, you know, he was always in sports, and people coming up, little girls wanting a picture with him, and it was cool at first. But when she's incentivized to keep the content going and keep the money rolling in, you know, they moved into a bigger house, big, nice house.
Right.
From a more modest home. It very quickly becomes, it feels like something that's not fun anymore. And when I can only imagine, I don't know what it's like, but being in a kid's position where you don't call all the shots and you're being, you know, forced essentially to perform in these things, I'm pretty sure that would very quickly get old for everyone involved.
Well, Sherry said in the series that basically the family's entire schedule revolved around YouTube, and that's when she really started to have issues.
Even every trip it's not even a fun trip anymore. This is our job. You guys, you know, smile more. You know, you can't ever have an off day. I mean, it's ridiculous. But Ruby runs into a thing with this type of fame that you have to worry about is as quickly as people love you,
They can turn on you.
they can turn on you.
Well, in this day and age with cancel culture.
Yeah, and this was
I mean,
during
we see that just because this is a pretty big scale. I mean, she has like 2.5 million followers. It took some time to build up
right.
to build up the subscribership and a brand, if you will. But we see that today just with like TikTok. You might have a creator. It comes to mind recently. I kind of come and go with TikTok. Like I might be on there for a few months and then I'll delete it and not watch for months and then get back on. But I was watching this drama unfold of like a certain content creator who does like house cleaning and tries to motivate people to like clean their house and organize, which, hey, I mean, that's a positive thing. But she went kind of overnight to like 1 million followers, and immediately people wanted to cancel her, even though they're like, I loved her content until
she got some fame.
Until I found out who she voted for, or because of her political leanings. And so then it became, we've got to cancel her. We need to deplatform her. And it's like, but you liked her up until this moment. And I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. Like, people have a choice.
Right.
We might not agree with it, but like, what does her telling you to clean your house have to do with who she voted for or what? I mean, I don't know. It's just silly, but I think we see that all the time. We see these creators who kind of instantly get fame, and then people are like hating on them and try to get them like deplatformed, kicked out of the creators fund, demonetized.
Yeah, ruin their lives basically.
Yeah.
Because if you're going all in on something, and this is your full-time job at that point. You're so, I think that Kevin was still working, but I mean, it's a big deal. You moved into the nice house, you're financing this lifestyle, you're taking trips, recording everything. You need money for that.
Well, look, I think content creation is cool, and I think it's a great supplemental income. And there are a lot of folks who do kind of quit working to full-time focus on content creation. But just with the nature of social media, I mean, it's not, you might not always be making that kind of money, and it may not always be around. So I kind of get into this thing of like, shouldn't you be maybe making plans that like this is not going to sustain? You might do this for like a couple of years, but then things could turn.
You're not going to likely be a content creator 30 years from now.
Well, just getting this type of money, like $100,000 a month. I mean, that is outrageous. I can't even imagine getting that kind of money. And me being like a little squirrel would be like, we have to store this money away.
Well, that's what I would do.
Because we'll probably never ever get this kind of money again, right?
Well, even when you're making $20,000 a month.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you should be banking freaking $14,000-$15,000 a month. And
but someone like her who is like living so lavishly, they go buy like a brand new house and they're taking all these trips and they're buying clothes and cars and just sort of showboating with all this money. I mean, it can end tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's the lesson she learns, because she starts getting into that my kids have to behave, right? And so she starts kind of turning her content towards, instead of happy family, let's cook dinner, towards more of a, this is how you should raise your kids. And it was under a veil of religion, they're devout Mormons. And, this is how God wants you to raise your kids kind of thing. But some of her tactics are they're a little harsh. Like, for instance, Chad, he gets in some trouble at school and things like that. They very quickly, she starts getting advice from a therapist online who already has her own notoriety.
Now, is this Jody?
Yes, this is Jody Hildebrandt.
Okay.
And she has this brand, this system, if you will, called Connections, where she does this kind of a tough love approach to relationship therapy and, getting your kids back in line, if you will. And at first, it's like, this will help. I'll get my son to see this therapist online, blah, blah, blah. But some of the, they take all of his electronics, which I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Kids not listening, not doing what they're supposed to. They're getting in big trouble, getting expelled from school or having fights at school and stuff is a big deal. Yeah, I'm all for that. Take all their electronics. They don't pay for those things. Those are a privilege to be earned back. Cool. Well, then he loses his bedroom. he can't sleep in his bedroom, has to kind of sleep in a common area in the basement on a beanbag for months. And I'm like, wow, that's
extreme.
That's pretty extreme. Now, I can't say I haven't taken a bedroom door off the hinges here and there in my life with my children just because they were acting out and
slamming the door,
sneaking
out,
or yeah. This kind of slips in a video that he's been forced to sleep in a common area or lost his bedroom and some of the other things that had happened. And she makes the mistake of posting this. She's like, oh, I don't think our viewers knew that. Well, she finds how finicky the internet can be. And they turned on her viciously. Her listeners, her followers, you start. And also what happens if you have a lot of notoriety, people pile on. Clout chasers won't let it go because they're nobody. They got 1,000 followers or whatever.
But I'm going to use your name.
But I'm going to do videos about you because they're hitting good right now. The algorithm's popping, and they're just going to pile on, and that's what happens. And very quickly, all that income falls off, like as much as 90% of the income. Followers gone. All this. And she kind of sees an opportunity with this therapist who has her own online presence and stuff to kind of reimagine herself, if you will, and like go into kind of do her system, be part of her thing. And then Jody Hildebrandt is very, I guess you would say busy, business savvy or whatever you want to call it, but very quickly tries to use her, even infamy at that point, to get her brand to pop. You see what I'm saying? So she brings her in, makes her a big part of what she's doing there. And then it starts getting a lot more kind of, it's just a 180 from what her content was before. And people don't understand exactly what's going on with her.
Wow.
And they're saying things in the comments like, oh, these poor kids, somebody save them. This is like a cult, blah, blah, blah. And it just goes downhill from there.
Well, like you mentioned, Jody Hildebrandt is kind of like this counseling person. She had a business called Connections. And many of the Franke children began to resent their fame on YouTube, as we mentioned. And they and neighbors start to agree that the family's lives seemed to really change when Ruby began working with Hildebrandt. The therapist first came into their lives after Chad was expelled from school. But Ruby began working closer and closer with this woman in her counseling business. And she even made her husband join a weekly men's group.
Yeah.
Ruby also hosted sessions and videos with Jody. Once Ruby and Kevin received a call from Hildebrandt, who sounded completely distraught. And when they came to her house, Kevin tells the documentary producers that strange things were happening, including loud noises coming from empty rooms and these like strange handprints sort of appearing, like smudges on the glass windows.
Because this is like a very beautiful, basically a mansion out in the desert. And these alleged handprints are like really big and way, 10, 12 feet up on the glass. So, he's just alluding to, in his mind, supernatural things were happening. So basically, it's like Jody starts telling them that
she's under spiritual attack.
Yes.
And then she moves into their home.
Yes. See?
For support.
Yes. She moves into their home. And all the time, her and Ruby are getting closer and closer. And other people are kind of being frozen out of their relationship.
Then she starts taking over Sherry's room. This is where she would go to escape the spirits, apparently. And she also began falling into what Kevin described as possessed trances.
Yes.
Where she would like hit herself. She would thrash. She would speak in these deep, strange voices.
Yeah, she would say things like, she's mine. I own her now.
So
yeah,
Kevin relays that Ruby really believed that it was like her place, that they were like chosen to help Jody overcome this demonic possession or spiritual attack.
Right. It's her job now. She's being called to do it by the Lord Jesus Christ.
So when 17-year-old Chad confessed to Jody and his mom that he'd watched pornographic movies or porno and kiss girls behind their backs, They started to blame him for this spiritual warfare and kicked him out of the house.
See, that blows my mind. Right? A newsflash, a 17-year-old looked at porn and kissed some girls. I mean, honestly, in this day and age, that's pretty tame. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot worse that they could be getting into. And even if you have feelings about them maybe lying to you or deceiving you, certainly you can have that conversation. But it's obvious they're just looking for a reason to almost, he's the oldest child at this point, 17 going on 18. It's time for him. They want to get him away. I mean, it's very strange. But in the same instance, Kevin comes home from work, another day of work, and is like, what's going on? And Ruby basically tells him to kick some bricks too, that their marriage is in trouble. And until he figures, himself out spiritually, he can't help put this family back together, blah, blah, blah. So in one fell swoop, all because the son admits to watching porn and kissing girls behind his mother's back, she's made Kevin and Chad leave the house. A 17-year-old, you just tell him, get out for that. Get out of here.
It's very unreasonable.
And Kevin, the father, the patriarch of the house, if you will, he needs to go too. He's in the way as well. And see, Sherry, the oldest daughter, was already about to go to college when Jody decided that she needed to come to their house to be safe. So she was told, hey, you got 2 hours to get everything out of your room you want, which she was kind of in the packing up for college anyway. Jody needs your bedroom. So you tell your kid to get out of her room for this person. It's very strange to me.
It is very strange.
Yeah, but so she's gone away to college. Now Chad and Kevin have been exiled. And now it's just Jody, Ruby, and the 4 youngest kids.
Well, Sherry was attending college at Brigham Young University. And that's when, and like you said, Chad and Kevin are gone. So Hildebrandt and Ruby, their relationship grew closer. Sherry says that when she came home for Christmas, that the energy in the house was off and that Ruby had also begun to sleep with Jody every night in Sherry's room. And when Sherry went inside to grab some items, she noticed massage oil and candles everywhere. And she's like, I don't know what it was. I can't describe it, but it was like this physical heaviness. It felt dark and I kind of needed to figure out what was going on. And so she thinks that her mother and Jody were lovers.
Yes, she was asked directly by the producers, during her interview at that point, do you think they are intimate or, and she's like, I do. That's what I believe.
Well, Kevin is pretty frank in the documentary that he's not sure if they're lovers, but he does note that their relationship just sort of kept growing stronger and stronger. And then it was like making not only him, but like other people uncomfortable.
That's
just
weird.
The kind of weirdness.
Uncomfortably intimate is the way he described it.
Well, yeah. And he says that he felt it was much more than friendship or sisterhood. It was, quote, uncomfortably intimate.
Which is it's an odd turn of phrase. At the same time, it really kind of, if I had to describe something like that, you're saying a lot with those words. You're saying that, their relationship,
you're going to kick out your spouse.
Yeah. And your oldest son, your oldest 2 kids, basically, because Sherry was cut off once she started asking questions and, was kind of coming back and forth from college. She was quickly cut off as well. And they're instructed to not contact their father. And all the while, Chad and Kevin are still doing sessions with Jody weekly. He's still in the men's group. Kevin's in the men's group, and Chad's doing one-on-one sessions with instructions to never ever miss one meeting, or that's it. You'll never have another chance to kind of get back in your mother's good graces, or in Kevin's case, his marriage.
Well,
what?
In August of 2023, Frankie's then 12-year-old son escaped out of Jody's home and went to several houses. He rang doorbells. Finally, a neighbor answered and asked if or he asked if they could either call the police or take him to a police station. So the neighbors quickly called 911 and told the dispatcher that the boy had visible wounds, duct tape on his extremities, and that he seemed malnourished. Authorities then found Ruby's emaciated 10-year-old daughter in the house, and the two women were arrested and held without bail.
Yeah, they found, the injuries on the young boy there, which the entire docu-series, their name and faces and everything were blurred and kind of protected for obvious reasons. They were severe. So he had these like gauze wrappings around rope burn wounds on ankles and wrists, wrapped with like gauze with cayenne pepper and honey on them, and then duct taped around that to keep, and emaciated to it was sad to see the pictures when you see his little legs and arms. It's like severely emaciated.
Well, when police searched Hildebrand's house, they found a blue folder in Ruby's bedroom that appeared to be a diary, and it was full of information about how she and Hildebrand believed her two youngest children were possessed by evil demons. In her December 2023 plea deal, Ruby admitted that the journal was accurate and that she had kicked her son, forced him to do consistent labor, that she had often bound his wrists and ankles, held him underwater, and cut off his oxygen supply.
Yeah, and he was also forced to like basically lay in the sun tied down to weights in the Utah sun in the desert.
And that these injuries were treated with what they called homeopathic remedies. I mean, it's just wild. Her daughter had also been subjected to similar punishments, like running barefoot outside, working on hot days. Both of the children were told that they were evil and possessed.
They shaved a little girl's head. I mean, it's very strange.
Ruby's diary had a line that read, quote, "I told him, give your demon friend a message for me. I will not rest. I will not stop. I will not leave. I will fight him until the day you die."
I mean, can you imagine being a child in this situation? The physical abuse and the emotional abuse that you're suffering, and now your dad's gone. Your older siblings are gone away, and then these were the two youngest, I think, that caught the worst of it, and then the other, the middle siblings, two middle siblings were, left with friends in the neighborhood, and their neighbors were concerned, honestly, in the beginning, because first of all, they didn't think it was okay to walk around the neighborhood filming on a very highly viewed, popular YouTube channel, their homes, their kids, their stuff, which I agree with that, without even coming saying, hey, this is what I do, do you mind, or is there a way I can do my filming for my channel and it makes you comfortable? No, she just did it anyway, and that would bug me in the beginning as well. It's just a little quiet neighborhood, a nice neighborhood. But they already had their suspicions the children were being left alone in the home for days at a time when Ruby first started going and staying kind of at Hildebrandt's home out in the desert, which was about 4 hours away. So they already had major concerns.
Well, both women pleaded guilty and were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 4 to 30 years. The documentary or the docuseries, Dylan, it really delves into the role of Kevin Franke because, one of my big questions is like, how the hell is she allowed to do this? If there is another adult in the house, how is he not reasonably concerned and like, what are you doing?
He's not in the house. At this point,
well, yeah, but I'm just saying,
right?
But kind of in the beginning.
Well, you're not going to tell me to stay away from my home and house to that degree. No, seriously.
Well, he's kind of revealed or maybe perceived as like a passive figure, but through these interviews, he really shows or kind of reveals, is what I meant to say, a complex dynamic that's going on within the household. And he acknowledges like his limited involvement in like sort of the day-to-day family matters. And he does reflect on his failure to recognize or like intervene in these escalating issues. So I do think that, at least he has some self-awareness or some like introspection.
He does, and I think he would basically admit that he was to a degree brainwashed. And this is one of those situations, we've talked about it before. It happens slowly over a long period of time, and he to this day says he loves her. She's the love of his life who did horrible things, but he still can't turn off his love for her. So, at the point when the police intervene and the children are discovered in that state, he had been out of the house for over a year and was still, trying to do everything that Ruby told him to do to get, his family back, is the way he would put it. I mean, it's disturbing to see how badly this family, it just got completely ripped apart.
Well, I think the series really raises some pertinent questions about the ethical implications of monetizing a family life and a lack of protections for children who are featured in this kind of content. That has been a prominent discussion regarding social media. I mean, I've seen several big content creators and their whole focus is on their children.
Yeah.
And people are like,
that's some of the most highly paid,
bringing this little toddler to the forefront and inviting pedophiles to comment. I think of one creator in particular that's kind of known for putting her little girl in these certain situations that almost could be deemed sort of sexual. And then there's all these like creepy men commenting, and people are like, you need to do a better job of protecting your daughter. Like, that's not okay. And then the mom just continues to pump out that content.
She just wants the clicks and views.
Of like her child eating a hot dog and like saying it's so big as she's putting in her. I mean, just like weird shit. That's not okay.
That's weird. And there's no way that you're doing something like that and not knowing that it could be perceived in another manner.
Well, yeah. And I mean, how is that exposure going to impact kids in 10, 20, 30? Like, how are they going to feel as an adult knowing their childhood was exploited for money and entertainment and fame?
Right.
And then you have to get into I think it kind of gets into this idea of how people portray themselves online. You get these sort of curated personas. And so we think certain content creators, they've got this very curated life and you're only seeing a bit of it. But behind closed doors, there are some of these like grim realities, or their life is totally different, or what they're presenting is not true or not factual.
Yeah, right. Completely false.
And then people start to like compare themselves to these content creators. Like, well, how was their life so perfect? But the reality is they're playing a character and they're creating this content that's very, very, very curated. And they're only showing you like a small portion of reality.
Yeah. And you're not able to edit your life, right? You're not able to crop and take parts out and leave just the good parts in. Life is real.
It's messy and it's sticky.
It is sticky.
And it's sad. And sometimes people have, you overreact. You have a meltdown. You get pissed off and angry. You
have a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I have to say, Dylan, our listeners are getting the most authentic versions of us.
Well, there's a little bit left on the editing room floor. Mainly dumb things I say. It can all see the light of day. But no, I mean, I like to think that this is us.
Yeah.
And we talk about
we're
life.
That's the thing about our podcast is we're definitely not like portraying something we're not.
No. And
like we really are this goofy and stupid.
No, I'm sure if, someone commented to me who had binged our podcast over the years, it's been years now, basically our entire relationship together, save for a few months maybe. And, there's been highs and lows. We went through a lot of changes in life, and, and the good and the bad's in there for the most part, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think our listeners went on that ride with us.
I was going to say it's about as real as you get up in here. We ain't sugarcoating it. ain't pretending.
And we appreciate our listeners. We love them.
do.
Love them to death.
We're like that totally unfiltered take, which, hey, that's not for everybody.
That's right. Might be a little grit in the bottom of the jug, but just go and take a sip of Mountain Murders.
But overall, Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke, I would recommend it because, I mean, it really does educate you
Right.
about what was going on. Because like I said, I knew a little bit about the case, but, but this really, I mean, it kind of opened my eyes to exactly what was going on. And you kind of see how, because, you're first like, how the hell does this even happen? But I guess it kind of shows you how, almost like a cult, like this stuff evolves over time. It's not just overnight. It's a process. It can take years.
And I got to say, everybody at the end of this, in the end, and you get some pretty, I think, authentic points of view from the oldest siblings and Kevin and some other people, neighbors, friends. But like Sherry refers to Kevin and Ruby by their first name, not mom and dad. I mean, she is over it, and Chad maybe to a little less degree, but God, this left a fucking mark on them, on this family. I mean, it really, you can see
some real trauma.
Physical, Dad used to be, big and kind of beefy and, healthy looking guy, and he's all scrawny and looks way, way older. And, the son, they all look, this left a mark on this family, and it's pretty disturbing. And there's tons of, the family turned over tons of behind the scenes, unedited videos. So you can just see, which is almost disturbing, Ruby go from, hi guys, doing her little, mommy character, to, screaming at one of the kids or dragging them off the table by the face when they're not doing what she wants. And then go right back to the, hi guys, this is Ruby, fake persona, and like, cut that out. We'll cut that out. Cuckoo, it's fucking scary, dude.
Yeah.
It's scary. And, I don't know. It was well done. I would recommend it. It's a good little rainy day watch. It was not too many parts. I think Netflix is getting a little better at that. Not having.
Well, this was actually Hulu.
Oh, Hulu. Well, they're starting to figure out.
Most people don't want to watch like an 8-part.
Well, you don't
series
need it. You can
condense it into 2 or 3 episodes.
No, and I think it's much more impactful when it's kind of consolidated down to the most important elements.
Well, thank you for sitting down with me, Dylan, for our True Crime Movie Club.
Thank you.
We'll be back with our midweek or sometime this week.
I know we got other stuff we got to watch. We have to do another movie club.
Well, yeah, of course. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great week. And like I said, we'll be back sometime this week.
Yep.
Bye, Dylan.
Bye.